Like listening to Level Up Weekly? Wish you had more content? Check us out over on levelupweekly.podbean.com to check out some of our latest episodes and some extra additional content. You're listening to Level Up Weekly on Radio Harbor Country. Tune in live on the air at WRHC 106.7 and WRHC 93.5 or on the web at www.radioharborcountry.org. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the world of Level Up Weekly, a bounteous, open podcast filled with amazing loot, legitimately challenging enemies, but not too difficult to defeat, and of course, the EXP. Join our fellow big headphone adventurers Dylan the Dude and Spurnaday as they journey on a quest to find the EXP from gaming news and discussion. Hello everybody, welcome to Level Up Weekly, your weekly XP for gaming news, and we welcome you back for another episode here at Level Up Weekly, and we're glad that you're here. We're glad that you like us enough that you want to keep coming to hang out with us on your day-to-day basis, or weekly basis, or once-a-month basis, and you binge watch all of them. I mean, it's your choice how you listen to us. We just know at the end of the day that you listen to our show, and we thank you for that. It's always an interesting topic to talk about video games, talk about technology, talk about esports, and we've been doing this for quite some time, and we thank you for tuning in here. But today, you're going to probably not like us because we're going to start talking about people today, and it's not going to be like your chitty gossip. No. It's going to be talking about like your most hated figures in video games. And just a disclaimer, I'm glad that Dylan put this in our notes. This episode contains discussion of controversial issues, and the views expressed are not those of WRHC, Podbean, or any of the other platforms that you see us on. We're not going to get like too saucy on here. You know, we're not talking like wasabi packets or ghost pepper lip balm or anything like that. But we're just going to talk about the most hated figures in gaming today. Right, Dylan?
And of course, here along with us today is Dylan the Dude, and we are two of the most lovable podcasts / radio hosts that you'll find all over the world, but especially where you'll find on Podbean, where you can find us at Podbean, Level Up Weekly, iTunes, search Level Up Weekly, on WRHC 106.7 and 93.5 WRHZ FM in the southwestern Michigan area, as well as online at www.radioharborcountry.org. And now, we ourselves are very, very lovable people. These names we're going to talk about today are some of the more controversial, some of the more mean-spirited, or all-around bad people in the gaming sphere. And of course, these are our opinions. These are from stories that we've researched, stories we've read, experiences that we've gone through with these developers or these people. And our views, like Jordan said, are not the views of anyone but ourselves.
These are I would say, a speculation based on evidence of the public, if that's a way to describe what we're going to do today. Because we're going to go anywhere from companies in gaming to streamers and content producers. We'll cover the big kids and the small kids, but we're going to try to look and just talk about, you know, why were they strongly disliked, or if you want to, we're going to use the term today. It might not be the perfect term, but hate, we're going to use that today. So it's going to be exciting to go into it. But before we delve into, the hater train, and everyone thinks that we're just on our haterade, we're going to, I want to talk about something real quickly, because I found this out last night, as of us recording this, that global events are going down in the division again. So I have been up till about 3 a.m. Last night and probably the night before. So just letting you guys know, I'm a little tired today.
Good decision.
Because global events only go for like a week, and there's specially altered scenarios in the game that allow you to get additional loot if you go and complete these tasks, and you have to earn credits, and those credits you can use to redeem cash boxes, and the cash boxes you can unlock, and if you unlock them, you can get exotics, like me trying to freaking find the house exotic gun that apparently is the rarest thing in the world in the game, and I always see people that are higher level than me have it, and I'm just like, come on, Brett, why are you doing this to me? Okay, Don't hate me.
And in other slightly happier news before we get into the hatred, Overwatch League is still in full swing, and Overwatch itself just had an update that included many new skins, emote sprays, and even a new map called Blizzard World, which will not be in the current competitive season, but will be implemented next competitive season. However, it is still playable in quick play, so that's a little bit of a happier tune before we start to get into a lot of this hatred in the video game industry with our episode on the most hated figures in gaming. And I figure that there's no better place to start than from the creators of a game of that same name. Jordan, what do you know about a company called Destructive Creations?
They make destructive creation. That's what I'm gonna go with. That's at least my initial start to it. I'm just trying to pander to give you some thoughts on this.
That's pretty fair. But do you remember a couple years ago the game that they released that really caused quite a stir? Are you familiar with the game Hatred?
I remember, isn't this the... I need to confirm this really quickly before we continue. I remember, isn't Hatred that game where its in essence design was basically to just kill whatever you saw possible in your realm, and it was just straight blood, gore, violence, and it was like a tone above that level that was a little too crazy?
Yes, it was actually it was originally put on Steam Greenlight, but then it got removed because of all of this, blood, gore, and just such mean-spirited gameplay that the game eventually actually was given an adult-only rating. And for people that aren't so familiar with the rating of video games, it usually goes, E for everyone, E10 for everyone 10 and older, teen for teenagers, mature, which is what you typically see as the most popular age rating for, more mature games. Anyone over the age of 17. These are where a lot of your Call of Duties, Resident Evils, like a lot of your more bloody and gory games. Hatred itself actually got an adult-only rating, which is the highest rating that any game can get, and it means that it cannot actually be sold on store shelves. Or many people will not let it be sold over store shelves. And it got even so bad, the reception to this game that this company created, that it was even banned from Twitch. And most adult-only games are banned from Twitch. This game was banned from Twitch so fast that it's actually kind of stunning that a game like this could exist that got so much hatred in such a short 2-3 month period.
First of all, nice play on words. Second of all, just to like paint you guys a picture as much as I can without losing our rating here on the show. This game is basically one of those kind of games that you look at and, you go to watch a horror film and the horror of it is just the pure gore and destruction and violence of it. It's pretty much what this game is. Your intent is it's a shoot 'em up game, basically. So your intention is you go in and plain and simple, guys dying, still, go and shoot them. I don't think I encourage you to do this, but I mean, if you're of age, then do it. I don't know. This is your decision. If you look at what some of the creation that they have, some of the screenshots they have from the game, it's pretty obvious why they wanted to make this game adult only and just really constrict it. Because at the end of this day, this game's intention wasn't necessarily about like a really devoted plot or anything like that. It was just straight up, hey, you're here, it's shoot 'em ups, and you're probably going to hurt people, both innocent and guilty, and that's pretty much your game. That's the best way I could describe this game. Like, I don't know if there's anything else I could add onto it other than the fact that this game was basically, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm allegedly a protagonist, but I'm going to go around and destroy and kill everything and do it in a brutal and gory manner.
Well, I think the thing that really put Destructive Creations, the company that produced this game, kind of into this weird hated figures in gaming category is that their actual response to all of the controversy was very, very unforgiving. They were very, as a quote from their official website, from their response to all this, These days, when a lot of games are heading to be polite, colorful, politically correct, and trying to be some kind of higher art rather than just an entertainment, we wanted to create something that rails against the trend, something different, something that could give the player a pure gaming pleasure. This is what they said themselves, and they got blasted for these remarks by everyone from the parent teacher council, who is in charge of kind of moderating the what children see on TV and video games, to the ESRB rating board. Just so many people really did not appreciate what destructive gaming was trying to do. And whether you love it or you hate it, whether you love the game for being just so unashamedly brutal and gratuitous, or you're appalled by it, like a very good portion of people are, it really goes up to what your standards of gaming are. But a lot of people got rubbed the wrong way when destructive creations decided to respond in the way they did.
You know what's really weird? The more that I think about this, it's kind of funny to me because we kind of had something similar to this happen recently with some of our colleagues that we know, and I think Dylan knows what I'm referencing, where there was a conversation that occurred that was, someone showing a picture and, we won't really talk about a lot of the details, but he was like, oh, well, this was against someone's terms of service, so they removed it, and then he tried it again, and then they removed it again. He's like, that's just stupid. That should be the freedom of speech and the freedom to, kind of create what you want to create. And this is a good example of this kind of situation. I mean, it could exist. Like, don't get me wrong. That's a freedom of speech, and they have the freedom to create something like that. And, the 1 ounce of respect that I'll give to this is they wanted to try to make something that was original and had put a lot of work into it. But at the same time, though, you got to understand that putting this into a situation like this, where your intention as someone coming in and playing this video game is not to just be straight blood, gore, and pure violence. It's like, if you look at other games, like, I mean, let's talk Doom for a second. Doom has been always notorious for the amount of violence that it could portray in the game, but what you're going up against. You're aware of what they're trying to create to you, and they're trying to give you this kind of feeling that it's not like as if you're just going around and just making everything dead. That's the part that I feel the benefit to personally.
And Doom has always had the benefit of you killing super alien demons
and
from
they're
hell.
evil. Like, that they're evil. That they're against you and trying to get rid of you, and they're trying to paint this picture of just you being the total just tough dude that you can possibly be and go out and fight people. That's the thing that they just didn't piece together, and I think that's what got them all this backlash. And when they kept receiving it, they're like, well, we just tried to create something different. I was like, who cares? At the end of the day, you got to understand that your public is what's going to make your company. And if you're going to say, well, we just tried to do something different and don't learn anything from that, well, congratulations. That's not how the public game creation content works, if that's even the way I could describe that.
And that's very important to note. We'll kind of wrap up here on destructive creations and hatred. But games like Doom and games like Duke Nukem, while having unlikable protagonists, are still aiming to do something good by destroying evil aliens or evil demons or whatever. Hatred kind of got stuck in a position where your goal was to kill innocent civilians, and that was not exactly something that a lot of people take kindly to. Before we head into this next company, though, because we brought up Doom and Duke Nukem, Jordan, have you heard about the Duke Nukem movie?
No, there's a Duke Nukem movie.
Well, they're currently in talks to create a Duke Nukem movie that's set for, I think it's a 2021 release. And guess who is on tap to play the titular Duke Nukem?
I'm scared. Is it Sylvester Stallone?
Nope.
Is it Johnny Cash?
No, you'll never guess. But his name is John Cena.
If that's actually the case, I'm a little disappointed. Yes. Is that actually what's going to happen?
That's who's in talks to play Duke Nukem.
I really hope that he changes his mind right now. John, you don't know me, but I know you. Please do not do this movie for the intention of your entire career. Ferdinand was better than this. Freaking Ferdinand, the one where you were a bull. That was better.
But I mean, it would be really weird if John Cena was playing Duke Nukem, because then the camera would just be, looking at nothing the entire time, because we can't see him.
That's also, not only is that meme old, but at the same time though, like I'm still trying to process, like, I don't know, I'm gonna put him in this list if this is actually gonna happen. So future listeners, you just know, you watch this episode and I talk about John Cena in the future, you knew what happened. You knew.
And speaking about some of the worst ideas, let's look at what arguably, or what I have titled in the script as, how to be the worst video game company without even trying.
Ooh, I know this one. BEA. There we go. The end. I've now won the award.
And what award have you won?
I don't know. I won an award. I just won a form of an award. Just kind of like the two awards, the two-time EA received for the worst company in America award. Yes, that is a legitimate thing. Yes, I do encourage you to Google that. No, I don't encourage you to Google hatred. Please do Google the worst company in America award and find out that 2012 and 13 was EA's, as we said before, how to be the worst video game company without even trying award. Personally, that's at least what we're going to give it to them. But
beating Walmart
and
in
Verizon.
The worst company and for Comcast.
How do you beat Comcast in it, guys? So let me just put it like this in perspective. You beat Comcast, so worst company in the nation, in the America.
And it's so tremendous. But first off, let's go over this. Electronic Arts, EA. So, Jordan, what are you familiar with EA for? What are some of the games that they've released that you can just name off the top of your head?
Well, I'll say one thing, that they did help in hand with making Command and Conquer the series, so I'm not upset with them there. But them stopping it is why I hate them. But more or less, I just know them. Well, let's talk current. For the first Star Wars Battlefront, which was mediocre. The second Star Wars Battlefront was just nothing but loot box controversy, pay to win tactics, and just the whole spiel behind that. And let's just be real. Like, EA, they've always tried to make fantastic games, but goodness gracious, they have failed multiple times. I mean, putting their hand in the pots for Battlefield, if I got that right? No, that's DICE. Never mind. I won't say anything about Battlefield then.
However, they were also responsible for a lot of the Mass Effect games, a lot of the Dragon Age games.
They were in charge of Andromeda, guys. They were in charge of Andromeda.
Which we have on here, but they actually do have a good track record of Command and Conquer, the Rock Band series, a lot of the James Bond, and Battlefield. You are correct. Battlefield actually is a property owned and produced by EA.
Oh, so it was with DICE then. Okay, yeah, because DICE was the one that worked with them to make Battlefront. Yeah, sorry,
they are the parent company of DICE. But you might think, wow, making a lot of these great gaming series, it's got to be good to work there, right? You would be dead wrong. So, one of the biggest complaints that people have against Electronic Arts, or EA as we call them, is that they have 13-hour workdays. 13-hour workdays, 7 days a week.
7 days? Ooh,
yep,
that part's
a full
interesting.
7 days a week. The current mandatory hours for anyone working at EA is 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. With if you've been on your good behavior and you're ahead with your work, you can get off at 6:30 p.m. on a Saturday. Occasionally.
My question is, who does that apply to though? Because there's got to be a restriction to, like, is that their lead development staff during times that they're building a game, or is this constant all the time? Everybody has that. Like, I'm just wondering, like, who that applies to.
According to the Consumerist Report on this, the current mandatory hours are 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. for artists, programmers, producers, and designers that are working at an hourly rate. The only people that are exempt from this are the highest ranking executives. So not even the leaders of the teams, just the highest rated, the highest in the food chain basically don't have to do this.
Yeah, that would be
roughly 80% of your company has to work these hours.
That'd be really interesting to think about, because Google has something where there's like a few forums you can find where it's former employees that basically rant about why they decided to leave the company. So this brings my curiosity to wonder what it would be like to read EA's forums of why their parent left. So I'm really curious to know what that would sound like now, because if it's anything like Google's, it's probably going to be a lot worse based on some of the environment that you hear about. And it's not like as if you live in outstanding environments. I mean, I'm granted I'm using kind of like a multi-billion-dollar company to compare to EA, but still, to think about that, the day in life in a developer is not a fun day. I mean, you go through a lot to talk with, and your constant ideas, your sketches, designs, your due dates are typically just a pain in the butt to deal with. So I can understand long work days, but just to keep going like that constantly, you'll burn out people and replace them way too quickly, and that's really bad for a company. If your turnaround is really bad, you won't be able to stay out in the market.
It's really a kind of disgusting tactic that EA actually has its employees working, these hours with such little, extra benefits or anything. But also a few other things that we have to note for them. One of the things is, and we're going to be very careful to touch on this subject, but the EA has also been put under fire for a lot of LGBT related instances. So one of the things that EA actually is most guilty of is their odd policy on the portrayal of gay characters in video games that they create. So I think you and I can both agree on this, Jordan. In the last few years, the representation of lesbians, bisexuals, transgenders, and gay characters in video games has become more prominent than it was, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's shown its increase throughout the market.
Well, EA has gotten a lot of praise originally for their inclusion of gay characters and in their treatment of their LGBT employees. However, they have gotten a lot of flack in the last 10 years or so of their kind of hard-handed or heavy-fisted inclusions of characters in their video games in terms of trying to, in the words of a few employees, they were told to pander to the LGBT community. These statements were not taken very well by members of the general press or members of the LGBT. And EA has stuck to their guns and have been very adamant that that's not the reason why they've done a lot of these. But it is one thing that many people are critical of them for, especially the odd and off-the-wall choices for portraying gay characters in the Old Republic series, as well as the Dragon Age series, where everything, according to fan and Metacritic perceptions, was kind of hammered in and forced. Do you have any particular opinion on this, or do you think this is kind of a minor controversy for EA compared to a lot of the other things we have on this list?
To be honest with you, I think my stance is that I don't have enough information to properly comment on it. And by that, I mean I don't have any personal experience with that scenario. So I think that we pretty much touched on this particular situation. I just want to be talking about their loot box problem with freaking Battlefront 2. Like, come on, man.
What a great one to talk about. What do you know about it?
It's bad. Let's just start like that. All right. Okay. You have a game, and it's with Star Wars built in it. First of all, it's gonna sell. Second of all, you build a game where you can play as a Jedi. Okay, it's gonna sell more. Cool. Then you make the ability to make your game pay to win, and by pay to win, it's adding and tweaking miscellaneous little gun weapon mods and trinkets that you have to basically inevitably buy unless you just wanted to throw 1,000 hours into that game. But before you would have to do that, you'd have to not be frustrated and be able to put 1,000 hours into that type of game. That's the part that drives me nuts, is that these are some items that they allow you to unlock, but it's like, okay, I could have it right now at 50 hours in my gameplay, or I could work to this and maybe get it in about 250, 300 hours. I mean, I hate games that do that. I know a lot of people will go back and be like, oh man, back in my day, we used to have to do an achievement in order to do this. And that's great. But companies have realized that they can make money off of loot boxes. And this is a big thing that MatPat and Game Theory have talked about. Have you seen those, by the way?
I have, yes.
Okay. Just to, basically reiterate what they said, people are going to do it because it makes money. I mean, is it a good thing? No. But if you're a corporate AAA development company and you can put another 500,000 in your budget, I mean, it's probably going to happen. But to do so and make it in a way that you don't tell your audience that you're really going to make it pay to win and they have to discover that, that's the part that everyone kind of goes, all right, I'm turned off at this idea. I quit. I don't want to play this game.
And kind of to reiterate that fact, there are a lot of games that do microtransactions. One that we've been into a lot lately is Overwatch. Overwatch does have loot boxes that you can buy or earn to get cosmetic items. This is a bit different from what EA's done because these are purely cosmetic and have no actual impact on the in-game. Like, for the most part, everything in Overwatch is completely optional. Everything you get from loot boxes is not required to play the game. However, in Battlefront 2, like you said, it has a play-to-win mentality because it takes so long to farm these loot boxes that the game is almost telling you, hey, you have to buy 100 loot boxes so you can get these things that you need to be competitive in the online mode, which is ridiculous in my opinion. It is a horrible, horrible way of just trying to suck more money out of your already loyal and probably not loyal for very long after customers that you don't need to do this to.
Yeah, it's important to differentiate when to use loot boxes or just generally speaking, I shouldn't say pay to win, but to use payment mechanics in a game. I'm okay with saying that you're adding on additional content that you decided to develop later on and you make it into the part of the game. I mean, I'm okay with that if it's a totally different arena and level and it provides you with enough justifiable content for the price that you pay. I understand that. But if you make a game that is constructed that it says, okay, I put $80 down as a gold member, whatever that they use that term for in that game, and then add that on top, hey, by the way, we now offer loot boxes, buy 15 for $20. Whoa, such a deal. Yeah, congratulations. Who cares? Because now you still got to buy the key. That's just a general example, by the way. So then using this tactic is to me just dirty, because at the end of the day, people are going to play the game, but do you really need to go above the point to pander that extra $10 off of the guy that's in college, that's looking to save money and say, well, if you want to have a fun experience, maybe you should do this. That's the point that I get frustrated.
Yeah, and it's it's really kind of a bad thing when not only do they do stuff like this, but even in some of the games where you have these options, sometimes they're just buggy as all heck. And that's another argument for EA. But do you have anything else about the microtransaction controversy with them, or do you want to go to your favorite video game of last year?
Oh goodness. I think I've pretty much touched on I pretty much ranted now at this point about what I think about EA. It's a company that they have created outstanding things, but the problem is that they never understand how to work with their consumer audience. And they might go, "Oh yeah, well we have a giant audience. How are we supposed to appeal to it?" It's really easy. Look at the companies that do actually do it successfully. I mean, come on. EA has been known to do this for years, and most of the time when an EA game comes out, that's what happens. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's an EA game." They'll maybe, you'll get their collective audience that buys the game and then realizes it's crap and then goes and does something else.
So tell me, Jordan, tell me about your love for Mass Effect Andromeda.
Have you ever done a 3D design and looked at it and went, "Wow, that's actually really good." And then you decided to make a video game of an infamous title out of that 3D design. But then when you take it to the public pulls the veil over your eyes and you realize that this was actually genuinely horrible. You can't understand how to put proper voice sync together. Your voice lines are like extremely subpar, and your storyline is just backtracking and going back and just doing something in general. And that's not even touching the fact that the game was extremely buggy in of its sense. Its minimap was horrible. It's just general experience wasn't fun. Like, just
characters' facial expressions were horrible.
Yo, if you want, just for fun, just look up the main character's face and just look at that and go, yeah, someone should have definitely pulled the veil over their eyes beforehand and realized they needed to remodel a lot. And I mean a lot. And that's why that game got so much negative criticism out of that. And that's the part that just goes, oh, well, that's life.
There is nothing funnier than watching an unpatched, because they did patch to fix a lot later on, but there is nothing more hilarious than watching someone play, because playing it yourself is horrible. You'll absolutely hate yourself for playing the game, but watching someone else play an unpatched version of Mass Effect Andromeda is there's very few things that are funnier. Just everything is so bad that you just can't help but laugh and chuckle. Which, I mean, congrats, EA. You gave us some chuckles from that, but probably not at the expense of ruining.
It's a company that makes us laugh at their horrible things and then cry at their horrible things. That's not a good combination. All right. I think we pretty much roasted EA for a majority of like 15, 20 minutes. So congratulations, us. We're really good at this. By the way, hi, EA. We're not that big, but we just like ranting about you.
So, Jordan, can you think of any other companies you'd like to throw in here, or do you want to start to get to some of the more hateful individuals within the gaming community in terms of streaming or streamers or content producers?
Well, if I'll be honest, one of the key essences of this episode, and this is the line where I want to make sure that we try to keep at, is that we mentioned in here that we hate a lot of these companies, and hate can sometimes be a strong word. And just remember that at the end of the day, some of us might still end up buying their video game. This more or less is to kind of give you guys that are watching a sense of understanding and say, yeah, you know what? This episode, it taught me a lot about EA's kind of goof up, so that if you've had that, as I used before, that veil over your eyes, we kind of pull it up a bit and say, hey, no, this is kind of the goofy, messed up part about it at the end of the day. So just make sure if you hear us saying these things, be sure to, if you want to fact check us, you can. If you want to, join the conversation, that's the important part to me, is I want to hear back from you guys on Twitter or whatever the case may be at Level Up Weekly. We'd love to hear you guys' feedback. So feel free to throw this in the comments or see you in the Twitch chat. We would love to hear more about that there. But, join in the conversation. If you are a proud supporter of EA, tell us why you support EA, and I'll tell you why that's lame. I'm just kidding. No, I really would love to hear that opinion. But I think that's pretty much touched on me for companies, though, Dylan.
And of course, you can find us on Patreon at Level Up Weekly, Twitter at Level Up Weekly, and while our Twitter feeds and Patreon feeds are pretty friendly, pretty nice, some of the Twitter feeds that have come from some of the people we're about to talk about may not have been so great at one time or another.
It was bad enough that it pulled them from a video game. Let's just put it like that. This one I can touch on here. It is, some of the most hated streamers and content producers is our next spiel here for the last 20 minutes or so of the episode. And one of the things that we're going to go with on here is that it's weird because this one is going to be a fun conversation because there's some characters that I would say that I still am okay with, but rather that they've just been perceived as extremely bad, and that's going to be the fun part to read about. So one of the first people we have on here is JonTron, or otherwise known as Jonathan Jafari. This guy is known for typically either gameplay or movie reviews in a comedic fashion, about 15 to 20 minutes long, and one of his main gimmicks is he tries to keep things fresh. He tries to keep things creative and original, and surprisingly enough was not impacted by anything on the YouTube side of things, which is the impressive part. But one of the things that to me was crazy about JonTron was the whole political issue that had happened, and that was interesting. Were you I don't think you really had a Twitter during that time, but do you remember reading anything on the timelines behind that, Dylan?
I remember seeing it way after the fact. I don't remember it as it was going on, though.
It was really interesting because people would kind of choose sides here and there. He kind of made the stupid decision, at the end of the day, considered opinion. And if you've never watched this, he's on the H3 podcast. He talks about this scenario. If you've never watched it and you are really curious about this, I encourage you to go watch that part. It's probably online, JonTron and H3 podcasts, and you'll probably find the clips and highlights, and you'll find what you're looking for. So one of the things that he talked about was that, he's always had some different controversial political opinions, and to avoid me not saying the correct thing, I'm not going to mention it, but it was different political policies. A lot of them were involved with foreign affairs, and it was just kind of a negligent way to put it. And when he had gone on someone else's stream to defend himself, he came unprepared. He had no background or basis to what he was saying. So he kind of just spewed out slang and, well, not really slang. He kind of spewed out in his version stupidity, and that ended up biting him really hard, as that pulled him from the sequel to Banjo-Kazooie, which was, what's the name of the game? I can't remember.
Banjo-Tooie?
No. It's the one that was kickstarted for $3 million, and now I can't remember the name of it. It's
Nuts and Bolts?
No. It's the one after that. Banjo-Kazooie. It's not called Banjo-Kazooie. That's the issue. It came out in 2017. Kickstarter game. I can't remember the stinking Yooka-Laylee. Thank you. There we go.
Yooka-Laylee. That's right. I remember.
It's the 3D platformer that was made from Rare. That it was supposed to have JonTron featured as like one of the creatures behind it, and he was supposed to be the voice actor. And after all this happened, he got pulled from it and got a ton of criticism, and quite frankly just disappeared off the face of the internet for 8 months or whatever that amount of time was before his next video. So after that point, he got canned. He's back now. He's doing okay, but at that time, that was genuinely just a slash straight through the chest.
And he's somewhat recovered a bit. He's had a few videos released in the last, I think, maybe 2 months or so. He did have a notable loss of subscribers, and I guess I'd like to just put a spin on it with JonTron, is that he made his bed, so now he's sleeping in it. He said his comments, he lost the subscribers, he's dealing with the ramifications of his actions. And I think that's fairly respectable, but it definitely didn't do a lot of help for him in the minds of a lot of his fans.
Not unlike PewDiePie, who decided to drop what he did. That's our next person here on our most hated streamers and content producers. I'm sure you've heard of PewDiePie. Guys, if you've heard of the internet and you've heard of YouTube, you've heard of PewDiePie, because congratulations, he's the most subscribed, now 60 million subscribers, most popular, I guess you could say, YouTuber that everyone knows about. Is he relevantly considered amazing nowadays? Not really. He's moved over his channel to Reaction Channel, and it's done its own thing. I'm not a personal fan. That's not the important part.
He is the highest earning YouTuber.
Yeah, based on the fact that he has like the most subscribers and therefore raise enough views.
$12 million a year is what he is his net worth. He's one of Forbes' top earning people within our age group. So he has a very impressive career, but go on.
Him and Logan Paul. Imagine that, guys. A man that has... I don't know if I could really comment on that, because that's not really what we're looking for in terms of gamers, so we'll save that for another time. But PewDiePie was interesting. He's dropped the N-word on a Twitch stream before. He's had his Nazism come out in accidental comedic ways, and so therefore everyone lashed at him for what had happened. My personal opinion, it was kind of stupid to just go with that option anyway. I mean, if you go with a form of comedy that it's designed to acclimate to something horrible that happened in the past, it's kind of rough to really make it without having some form of controversy. And if to anyone that's like, oh, too soon comments, like, really? Is that the joke that we're going to use to it? Come on now. The other things too, again, the N-word, just really, I think it was the N-word that kind of hit him. People acknowledge that, and he made a mistake. But other than that, like, that's really the touches I've got on PewDiePie. He got a ton of hate and criticism for it, and of course, everyone wanted to give him some form of a bash on it, and I'm like, why? It doesn't matter. But yeah, it's PewDiePie's an interesting character.
Well, he is one of the most popular internet sensations, probably the most popular internet sensation in a long while. But a lot of his choices of what he's done, including his use of the N-words, his use of a very anti-Semitic phrase during a video he made where people were allowed to type in or pick whatever they wanted to say, and he himself put a super offensive anti-Semitic slur into that video. And I think it was also his reaction to that, where he did have some remorse, but then he also kind of defended himself as well, saying it's just a video. I have the freedom to do what I want. It's offensive, and I was trying to show
that's
that
a
it was
YouTuber
offensive.
mindset. That's the problem, is that I always hate this. You know, everyone is going out on YouTube lately and saying how it's the freedom of production, and that now their current terms of service are hurting their small content producers. And quite frankly, let's just be real. Like, this was to be expected. You have millions of people use this platform, and someone somewhere, no matter how big or small they're going to make something stupid. It's going to get reported in the news. It's going to hurt someone in the long run, and it's probably going to be backlash against the company. And so far, in my honest opinion, YouTube's been absolutely horrible about dealing with some of these scenarios. At the end of the day, television has ESRB ratings, or I'm sorry, it's not ESRB ratings. Is it, Dylan? It's something else, not ESRB ratings.
ESRB ratings is for video games.
Yeah.
Television has a bunch of different codes and companies that the TVMA, like those ratings, they have guidelines. Let's just say.
I was just looking for the actual name of it, but you go to that scenario, and they're constructed to whatever that rating might be. So you're expecting of what's about to happen. It doesn't happen on YouTube. It just doesn't. Their mature rating is like, in case you find a video of a naked woman or something, and it just doesn't get used properly. Like, that's the problem that we see out of YouTube at the end of the day. You know, you go on there and you can post whatever you want to, but it doesn't get filtered to, hey, this content's probably suitable for 8-year-olds or something like that, or this content's suitable for teenagers. This content's pretty mature, so we're gonna put a, you know, a 17 or whatever the case rating on it. Like that doesn't happen. And if they were able to generate and create something of that level, that would be able to solve a lot of these situations, so that when PewDiePie becomes an idiot and decides to drop the N-word on a stream, that rating just skyrockets it up. And unless they're lower in age, then they're not going to be able to watch it.
Well, the FCC is who has the most say in what you see on TV, how TV and communications is, and of course we could put the FCC on this list every year for most hated video game related things. But if there was just a sense of quality control with, you know, people, not only YouTube, but also like Vine stars or Twitter or, you know, like other celebrities online, I think we would definitely be able to kind of mitigate a lot of the people like PewDiePie, like JonTron, like, you know, a lot of Logan and Jake Paul. You know, we'd be able to take a lot of these people that just get into controversy and have this kind of entitled mindset that they can do what they want because they're on the internet and they're famous. No one should have that mentality. Movie stars shouldn't have that mentality. Musicians shouldn't have that mentality. The ones that do usually don't have long careers. So it's really stunning to me that other mediums, other celebrities have to, you know, not have that mindset. But if you're on the internet, I guess that's just the most common mindset to have.
Well, it's everyone wants to play the freedom of speech card. And yeah, I totally am with that 100%. But there's also a side of it that you got to go. Sometimes you can't filter everything that happens online. So maybe try to find a way that you could help it in some way. You know, maybe I'm the minority in this case where I'm thinking that maybe we should have some type of rating suggestion put on YouTube, but that's a personal opinion. That topic, sorry, kind of pulled us away from the actual essence of PewDiePie, but that was kind of meant for everyone else that was really in the content production side that was in that realm. But the last guy who's really our scumbag personally out of our content producers is, and I almost wish that I saw this happen live, as this would have been quite an interesting experience to know about. But if you guys aren't familiar with Zillion Op, aka Angel Hamilton, I guess I should do that vice versa. Angel Hamilton, aka Zillion Op. He's one of the Twitch streamers who was banned off of Twitch for breaking terms of service. What's the terms of service that he was broken for? Dylan, could you tell us why exactly he was pulled off of Twitch?
Well, he was using a disability to gain attention and sympathy. Of course, he played all of his games in a wheelchair and was told all of his viewers that he could not he could not move from the waist down. He was completely paralyzed from the waist down. However, when he accidentally got out of his wheelchair and showed that he was in fact not paralyzed and could actually walk perfectly fine, that is where you kind of get the break from the Twitch. You kind of break their terms of service when
Just
you
a
outright
little bit.
lie.
Only just a little bit.
It's exploitation. It is the absolute. You utilize what many people have to go through, a strife that many people have to go through on a daily basis, and you try to monetize it on Twitch. What a nice group of people. I think that if there's any arguing about anyone on this list or any company on this list, anything that we've mentioned today, this is probably one of the more universally agreed on scumbags that or most hated people in gaming. Because I don't know too many people that will go out on a limb and defend a guy who faked disability, faked paralysis to make more money and get more support on Twitch. I don't think you'll find many people that are hard pressed to come to his aid.
Yeah, I agree. One more guy I forgot to mention on our list here. I forgot that we didn't really throw him in our notes until the last second. He's not as scummy, in my opinion, as Zillion, But one thing we can definitely say is that it was kind of a jerk move to pull was XQC and his homophobic slurs that had happened on stream. And of course, that led to disciplinary action that he was suspended temporarily by the Dallas Fuel. I feel bad. Anyone that listened to last week's podcast, I'm sorry. I said I was an XQC fan. Let's be real for a second. I've never watched one of XQC's streams. I've watched Seagull multiple times, and I should have said Seagull, but I use XQC as an example. So I bite myself in the face for that one. I'm now a part of this list, apparently, Dylan. How dare me?
I mean, I've always liked the Fuel as the concept of being, the very Twitch friendly, very creative team that they are. I think XQC probably needs to work on his temper and how creative he can be with his insults, because he just went straight into the lion's den with the comments he made. But he hopefully will learn from this, and I don't think XQC is going to be regarded forever as being one of the most hated people on the internet, especially if he turns it around. But it's definitely not looking good for him when you start yelling anti-gay slurs like he did. So hopefully he matures a little bit. Hopefully a lot of these people that we've talked about, from the Paul brothers to XQC to EA even, manage to mature and kind of dig themselves out of these holes. But as per our topic today, we have been talking about many of the most hated figures and companies in gaming history. And I think we've about wrapped it up with all of those. Do you have anything to say before we end the show?
Just at the end of the day, remember that if you're a big fan of this group, just remember we're putting on our 2 cents of why they have been portrayed as a very hated person or company out on the interwebs. So if you, like I said before, join the conversation at Level Up Weekly over on Twitter. We would love to hear you guys' inputs and feedback on it. If you're listening to us on the radio or on Twitch or wherever the case may be, we would love to hear from you guys, as that conversation is an important part of this show in general. We hope to be able to continue to do stuff like that. But other than that, that's it for me. Dylan, is there anything you want to add before I put our closing stuff on this?
No, I'd just like to say, tune in to us every week. Follow us on Twitch, Podbean, Radio Harbor Country at radioharborcountry.org/levelupweekly, twitch.tv/levelupweekly, our Patreon, could use some love over there, Twitter, a great place to stay up to date on all things Level Up Weekly, and of course join us on Level Up Weekly, which is a great place to get all of your gaming news and discussion.
Indeed. So make sure, if you guys have missed any episodes or anything, it's on our Podbean and iTunes accounts. So make sure to check that out. And we've already talked about the conversation. Just a reminder that the previous episode plays on Tuesday nights over at twitch.tv/levelupweekly, which is the same channel. You can see us, see this episode live. Hi, if you're seeing it live. And then Saturday, remember, is our streaming Saturdays. This week, I'll be back playing some Mega Man. So it's about to be hype, because that's a Game Boy classic right there. Anyway, guys, that's it for us here. Thank you so much for tuning in today to our show. And tune in next week for your next level experience.